everybody, it's Emily at Arg Schooling, and let's chat about my bookish red flags. I've been seeing this going around on Bookstagram, and I thought it was fun, and I thought it would make a fun video, so let's do it. So bookish red flags are just things that where I feel like maybe I'm doing something a little bit bad. My bookish bad habits, if you will. And I thought it would be a fun video, so let's just get into it, shall we? First bookish red flag is I don't read the synopsis. And if you guys have been following me for a while, then you probably know this, because whenever I talk about a new book, I have nothing to say about it. Besides, I wanted to read it. So like, I like going into stories without knowing too much. Like, I do sometimes read things that I do know what the gist of the book is going to be before I start, but overall, I prefer knowing as little as possible because I feel like I get more out of the story when my expectations aren't like really high. So that I find the less I know, the more I might enjoy the book. My next bookish red flag is that I always read the last line of a book before I start. I don't know when this started. I've been doing it pretty much my whole life. I feel like every book I've ever read, I always flip to the back first. And I don't know why. Like, I have no explanation. I'm not looking for spoilers. I'm not looking for any kind of like, will this work out okay? I just do it. I always do it. Sometimes this has saved me because there have been at least 2 times that I had bought a book at like a thrift store or a garage sale or something, and I flipped to the end of the book first and the last few pages are missing. So that stopped me from reading a book that I would not get a conclusion to. So like, this is a good habit to have, I guess. I always read several books at a time. This, again, I don't know when this started, because I don't think I always did this, but probably in the last like 15 or so years, I've started like doubling and tripling up. Like, for example, I always have a book on my Kindle that I'm reading that I read at night because my Kindle stays by my bed most of the time. And I always read it when I'm going to sleep at night. That is like how I wind down. So I always have a Kindle book going. I always have a read aloud going with my kids. I always have a for me book going. I always have a workbook, something I'm reading for business related things, for Build Your Library. I always have something going for that. So that is just in general how I do things. Sometimes, like recently, I've been starting to pick up more for me books at a time. So I'm sometimes juggling like 6 to 8 books at a time. And people ask me like, how do you keep them straight? And I don't know why I wouldn't keep them straight. Like, you watch multiple TV shows at a time, right? Like, that is a thing most people do. You don't mix up your TV shows, do you? Like, I'm not confusing plots because they're all different kinds of books. Like, I'm not reading like 6 different mysteries. Like, I feel like that could potentially get confusing, but like, even so, maybe not. I've never tried that because it's not a genre that I read, but like, I feel like I read things that are different enough that I don't mix them up. This is probably my newest bad habit, but I prefer to read an audiobook while I'm reading the physical book. So this has become a thing for me because I've realized that it helps me focus. I have ADHD, undiagnosed, but like I have it. I'm sure of that. But I tend to have a hard time focusing. And especially if I'm stressed out, if there's a lot going on in the world, like since 2020, this has really been an issue for me. But like, I struggle to keep my focus on what I'm reading. Like, I'll be reading and then my mind will start to drift, then I'll pick up my phone, then I'll look out the window for a while, then I'm like, oh, I was reading, and I have to go back to the book, and like, I will do that too much, to the point where like, I don't finish things because I just cannot keep my brain in the story. I've discovered audiobooks. In the last like 2 years, I've started listening to audiobooks, and oh my gosh, this has been a game changer for me. What I really like to do is have the audiobook going while I'm physically reading the book. I read fast anyway, so like I can listen at like 3 times speed, like 2.5 to 3 times speed while I'm reading it with my eyes. And not only am I able to focus better because I'm hearing it and seeing it, but I'm reading it faster this way because I'm less likely to distract myself. So it's not 100% foolproof, but it has been a real big help to me, especially for things that like I have to get through for work that maybe I'm not in the mood to read right now, but like I need to read it. So that's been so helpful. And it's also why I've been able to read so much more this year. Like my general reading has always been somewhere in the realm of like 70 to 105 books in a year. This year, my reading is already at 122 books. And I still have a couple of months to go. And I've been reading like 10 to 14 books a month. So like, I'm going to probably hit 150 books this year, which is a lot for me. And I am going to attribute that to audiobooks being very helpful for keeping my focus. I buy way more books than I can ever read. I think part of this is that I didn't used to have money to purchase books for myself. So anytime I had any money for anything, it went to stuff for the kids. And I would put all my efforts into making sure they had reading material. But then I didn't have very many books, and I relied on the library for the most part for that. And in the last decade or so that I've been running my own business, I've had my own money for the first time in a really long time. And that was like, oh, we have extra money now. I can buy books. and so I started spending more money on myself. I've always been the kind of person, especially when it was just my husband working, that I felt guilty if I bought anything for myself. And I still do that, but I do it less now. But like I still sometimes feel like I shouldn't spend money on myself. So for years I didn't. And now that I can, I'm like, I can have the things. Finally, I can have the things. Like I still like, we're not well off at all. Like we're putting kids through college. Like we have no money. But every time I get just a little bit of money, I spend it on books. And it's just, I don't think I would ever change that. Will I ever read all of the books I own? Doubtful. Am I going to try? Sure. But I'll probably still be buying new things because there's always new ones. I sort of have willpower. Like if I tell myself I can't buy anything this month, then I won't. But then the next month I'm going to buy extra things because I have to make up for the fact that I didn't buy anything the month prior. So maybe not the best habit, but I'm going to die happy with a giant library that I'll never finish reading. Maybe I'll come back as a ghost and finish it then. Kind of along the same lines, I get really excited about new releases to where like I have pumped myself up. I cannot wait for this book to come out. And then I get it and I put it on my shelf and I leave it there for 5 years and I don't read it. But I'm excited. Like every time I look at it, I'm like, I'm going to read you. Do I read it? Maybe some days. I'm not saying I never read the things that I'm excited about. I absolutely do. But there are books sitting on my shelf right now that I was so excited for and still have not read. And it's been years. So like, this is a weird habit where I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm saving it. What am I doing? Why have I not read it? I don't know. But like, especially this shelf right here that I look at all the time because it's right next to me. I have so many books on that shelf that I was like so excited. That's why they're here. I put them here so I would see them and pick them up. And I have read some of them, but there's still quite a few. So that's a really weird bad habit. I don't know why I do that. It's a red flag for sure. Another red flag is that I forget that my Kindle exists. You guys, I recently went and counted and put into my, I have a book app that I keep track of everything I own. And I decided I was going to do that with my ebooks because I had no idea what was on my Kindle. And I had like 350 books on my Kindle. Several of them I had already bought physical copies of because I didn't know that I owned a Kindle version of that book. So I had so many duplicates and I'm like, what am I doing? Why do I forget these exist? It's sort of like they're invisible. I mean, they kind of are because they're all in my Kindle, which is like really thin and sits on a shelf in my bedroom. And I just don't ever remember what's on it. So I've been working on that. So I don't buy things that I already have the ebook of. Unless I want to, because sometimes you do want a physical copy. I am a serial DNFer. I am a quitter. I am not the kind of person who will force myself through a book. I don't hate read. I think I can count on one hand the number of times I have finished a book I was not enjoying. Because I generally, if I'm not enjoying it and I get a few chapters in, I'll stop. There have been a few times when it was a book I had to read for something, so I forced myself through, but 99.9% of the time, I have no reason to complete a book I'm not enjoying. Like, why would I torture myself? Why do I want to do that? There's no good reason to, so I usually just, like, let it go. Sometimes I DNF because I'm not enjoying it. Sometimes I DNF because it's not the right time to read that book. Like, sometimes I'll be reading a book that I'm actually liking, but, like, not really in the mood for, so I'll put it back on the shelf and come back to it later. I have so many books that I have read, like, the first quarter to third, even, I think, one that I've almost made it halfway, and then stuck it back on the shelf because I was like, not right now. I have other things I want to get to. Someday I'm going to get to all of those DNF'd books, but, you know, there have been many that I just did not want to finish and got rid of because, like, why do I have this? I don't think there's any reason to read a book that you're not liking. Because you're not going to get anything out. What's the point? Why read it if you don't like it? And my last red flag is probably the one that bothers me the most. But, like, I don't know what to do about it. And that is forgetting the plot 5 minutes after I close the book. Like, the number of times that I go to talk about a book and then have nothing to say because, like, I don't remember. Like, I liked it. I try to, if I'm going to do a review or anything like that, I try to do it as soon as I finish the book. Because if I wait even a few days, I'm going to start forgetting important plot elements and I'll have nothing to say. If I'm doing a book for book club, for example, I will read that book like within days of the live show so that it is the freshest as possible in my mind. I'm a little worried now because we're not doing the live show for the current book club for another week. Like, I have another full week before we're going to get to it, but I had to start it early because I was on hold on Libby for the audiobook and it came in early. I thought I had to wait. I was on a wait list and it was just like the next day. I was like, how dare you? So I had to start it early and I'm so nervous that I won't be able to discuss it properly. So I might have to take notes or something. But that is something that has always bothered me. Like, I don't know why I cannot retain this. Like, if I've read it multiple times, I remember it. Like, I have no problem remembering every detail of The Book Thief. I've read that book dozens of times. Same with, like, Lord of the Rings. Same with books that I've read multiple times. Like, the Ark of the Scythe series. I've read all of those more than once. So, like, I feel like if I've read it more than once, I can hold that information better. But I'll forget character names. I'll forget plot points. I'll forget lots of things. I don't know why that is. But, like, I have a hard time writing book reviews because of this. And that's part of my job, unfortunately, is writing book reviews. So, like, it's a struggle. But I work at it. So those are my bookish red flags. Let me know if we have any in common. And also, let me know in the comments, what are your bookish red flags? I would love to hear about it. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you will subscribe. And if you want to give it a like, I would appreciate that as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye!